Today's project is this 2002 Honda XR70 that I picked up for $250. It's a complete basket case with many things wrong. Mainly the engine is seized. It's also missing quite a few parts. So today I'm going to be breaking it down, making a list of things that I'll need, and seeing what went wrong. Should be pretty interesting, so let's get into it. Alright, right off the bat, on this side I can see this front fork seal is leaking. This gas tank is definitely not bolted down. It's going to need some new handlebar grips. There's no chain adjuster here, so this back axle is just flopping around. On this side, starting in the back, you can see this rear number plate is missing. This muffler is definitely not attached properly. The Kickstarter is, of course, frozen, and the throttle is not working at all. I think this side has the bolt on the fuel tank. That's all I can see from a general inspection. We'll have to start tearing this thing down and see what really happened to it. Now that I've looked everything over, I'm going to go ahead and take the seat and gas tank off real quick. Yeah, there's only one bolt on this side. Gonna go ahead and get this exhaust out of the way now. These are two different size nuts. One's an 11 or maybe a standard, and the other one's what it should be, the 10. The whole stud is coming out of this one. I also put some Marvel mystery oil in the spark plug hole, so we'll probably see some of that run out. Nope, didn't see anything. I'm gonna go ahead and take this carb off, but I'm just gonna take it off right at the intake. It was already loose, so how I feel on this is pretty much a part spike at this point, but we'll see if we can get her back together. We'll see why this throttle isn't working at all. Breather line was still hooked up and the overfill. Guessing there's no spring in here. Yeah, there's no spring in here, so throttle wouldn't work. It does look like there's a needle. Oh, and the slide is here. So someone must have taken the spring out and used it for a different bike. I want to get this motor out of the frame, but I'm going to check and see if there's any oil in here first. I'm not very hopeful. If anything, it's probably just going to be Marvel mystery oil that I put in there. Oh, there's some oil. Stand corrected. And a pretty good amount of it, too. Wow, it might have been overfilled. I don't think there's a magnet on this. Look at how much oil came out of that. I'm pretty sure this thing only takes like a half a quart or something. I'll have to look it up, but that seems like way too much. Next up, I'm going to loosen these two case bolts. There's one here and one here. And they're 14 mils. Got to get this spring off that's for the brake. Alright, I'm not going to take these bolts out. There's a few things we need to do on the other side of the motor. I'm going to pop this flywheel cover off so I can get the chain off. Guessing it's going to be a big mud hole. If I can get it out. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. It's pretty chunky. Now I can go after this front sprocket here. Just need to get some of this crap away. These are two 10 mils. There we go. That's one. And 2. Since this chain doesn't even have an adjuster on the back, I'm just going to try to run the chain off of it. There, oh, there we go. I'm just going to leave that on. Hopefully when I get it over on the table, I'll be able to take it off. I think the last thing really holding this motor on now is just the wires. So we'll open it up here. We should have 2. And we should be able to disconnect these. There's 1. There we go. Alright. I think the motor should be ready to come out now. Just gotta unplug the spark plug over here. That one came out really easily. Alright, motor's out. Before I start breaking down the motor, I'm just going to quickly go through the carb and see what we got. Can already tell it's got one of these pretty cheap aftermarket air filters. They don't really restrict any air. Looks quite dirty in there. I can see intake boots messed up a little bit. This bolt right here has been cut off. Not sure why. I'm guessing because it looks like it's stripped out here, so might look at getting another carb off of eBay depending on how much it is. So we'll see if we go any further with this one, but I think the intake will work. It's just got a little spot here, but shouldn't affect anything. Not sure if I'm going to keep this or not either. So let's move on to the motor. I'm going to start getting some of these accessories off, so I'll start with the kicker here. Now I have the engine turned over. I'm going to get this bracket off, which is your foot pegs and the kickstand. Last 2 things here will be the shifter and the sprocket, so let me dig on this a little more. Should be able to get this off now, I think. Here we go. Look at that. That's some sort of rope or something. Case looks good around here though. It's just gonna need a good bath. Now I can work on the shift lever. That came off nice. Now let's move on to the good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these valve adjustment covers. If I can. I don't see anything catastrophic yet. I'm gonna go after this flywheel nut next. It's a 14 millimeter. If you have an impact, I'll definitely use it. This should be pretty easy since the engine is seized already. Came right off of there. And there is a little washer there, so I'll grab that out too. Just like that. To pull this flywheel, you need a flywheel puller. I'm going to grease mine up. It's reverse thread, and you want to make sure you sink it as far as you can because these threads are very fine. That was less dramatic than I thought. Came right off of there. The Woodruff key here is pretty stuck. I'm gonna lightly tap on it with a punch here and see if I can get it out without destroying it. Probably gonna have to get a new Woodruff key here, but got it out. Keyway looks good if this crank is any good. To remove this stator assembly, first we'll remove this wire clamp here. Oh, dropped the clamp. Now we can remove the ignition pulse generator bolts. Just like that. There's another harness here. Now we'll go for the stator mounting bolts. That's on there. It's also on there. Get a ratchet. Make sure you get this grommet out, and we should be able to remove everything as one piece here. We can go ahead and remove the stator base now. Just these two screws. I'm going to use a big impact because I don't want to strip them out. Yeah, they're in there pretty good. Try this one. Got one. Whew. Those did not want to come off easily, but I got them out without stripping them, which was the plan. Stator base is fighting me a little bit. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get it up here. Okay, there are two little O-rings here. Make sure you get those out, or you probably will lose them. Next up, I'm going to take this sealing bolt out, which is the tensioner and everything. It's a 14 millimeter here. I already loosened it up a little bit. Whoa. Came shooting out. Next on the list is this tensioning arm and roller here. It's a 17, and I'm going to get it with the impact. It's really easy. I'm going to start going after the top end now, so I'm just going to remove this spark plug. Some Marvel Mystery Oil in this 10 mil here. With this bolt loosened over here, I can take it out. I'm going to use a brass hammer and tap on it to hopefully get this cover out. Oh, easy. Gonna get these cam sprocket bolts out. Now I should be able to get this sprocket off. And don't forget, there's a little dowel pin right here. We want to get out. Nice and easy. Gonna go ahead and loosen both valve adjusters all the way so it'll be easier to get the cam out of there. They look like they were adjusted like all the way down. I think that'll do. Now I can go ahead and get the cam out. I'm gonna do that by reinstalling these. And I should be able to pull it out just like that. This cam definitely has a little bit of scoring. I'm going to go ahead and remove the valve cover now. We might be able to see some carnage here. These are all 10 millimeters. These all have washers. These are usually pretty hard to get off, so I'm going to tap it with a rubber mallet and just hopefully I'll be able to hear the sound change when I break it loose. Oh, I think I heard it. Let's see. don't see anything crazy yet. To get this head off, all we need to do is loosen this bolt here. Which might be easier said than done. I actually got it loose with a 3/8. I don't know why that would work, but it did. Now I'll probably get my old trusty friend, rubber mallet here, and see if we can... Oh wow, it came off pretty easily. A few more taps probably. These posts don't look too bad, just this one. Here's the head. It's definitely got some carbon buildup on it, but the valves look to be seated properly. And I don't see anything major. Take a look at the piston now. Here's the piston. Here's all my Marvel mystery oil. Soak that up. It just looks like it's very rusty in there. I think that's probably what did this in. Somehow water got into the system and destroyed this cylinder and piston. The whole engine looks like it's been used pretty well, but I think that specifically is what caused it to lock up here. I have the nut back on the flywheel side. I'm going to see if I can move this thing around a little bit and maybe get this cylinder pushed up off of here. Doesn't want to go that way. Oh, I got some movement out of it. Oh, look at there. She's freed up. Oh yeah. I don't think we'll be able to use this cylinder, but we got her free. Now I should be able to take this base bolt out, and it should slide right off of there. Okay, I want to go ahead and take this roller out, which is this bolt, and then the last base bolt. I'll just leave that roller in there until we get everything else out. It'll come right out with the cylinder. There's the roller. There we go. Look at that. I'll show you everything here in a minute. Okay, hopefully you guys will be able to see this cylinder here. It doesn't look as bad as I thought it was gonna look. I definitely can see where the piston seized in there, but it mostly just looks like there's a little bit of corrosion everywhere. I don't think this was like a lean seizure or anything. I don't see any big scoring marks or anything that I can catch my finger on. And on this side where the oil was, I can actually still see some of the cross hatching. So not sure what I'm gonna do with this cylinder, whether it can be honed or not, but I'll take a closer look once I get it all cleaned up. Next up, I'll get this piston off of the rod. I can see all the rings are frozen in place. So let me get this cam chain out of the way. Get this piston off. Circlip out of this side, hopefully. Went flying. That's why I always wear protective eyewear when I take those out. See if I can push this out over here. I don't think it's going to be that easy. It doesn't want to come out either way. I might leave it on until I get the crank out, just so I don't damage it, because the crank is actually moving really free, probably because they had all that oil in it. But I think the crank is savable, so let me think about it. Yeah, this wrist pin's extremely stuck. I'm going to have to hit on it with the hammer probably, but I want to brace the connecting rod so that I don't damage anything else. So I'll do that once I get the crank out of it. Let's go ahead and get this clutch cover plate off. Take this out so I have something to pull on, kind of. Alright, I put it back just so you guys will know, but you can remove this, I think they call it like a ball retainer. And there's a little spring here. There's an arm. And then this is your like oil through. It'll all come out. Just like that. Now I can remove this clutch cover. It's these 4 screws right here. Again, I'm going to use an impact just to make sure they all come loose without stripping. I'm going to get something to put in the gears here just to hold them up. I have a little rag. That should do it. See if we can get these out now. And these are JIS, so Japanese Industrial Standard, because you will strip it out with a regular screwdriver. Okay, all 3 of these screws came loose pretty good. This one I could not get. So what I did is drilled it out, and then I hammered in a Torx bit, and I'll see if that'll get it. This usually works. Might go a little deeper. Alright, take 2. I drilled it a little deeper, hammered it a little harder, but we'll see. Alright, I got it. So, only need to replace one of these, which I find is pretty common. Not a big deal. The rest of the 3 we can take out now. And like I say, I was using Japanese Industrial Standard. I think they just get really tight. Got a little tiny block of wood here, maybe I can pop it off. Just like that, comes off. And there's a little bearing here. Mine seems okay, but I'll check it out later. Oh yeah, look at all this. That's all probably case material and everything else. It's all in these cracks. This is all case material. Someone hasn't cleaned this or probably ever been into this. Look at this. I'll clean this up and we can move on. To get our clutch off, we need to get this nut off, which requires a special tool. There's a lock nut here, and you just bend all the tabs back. Once you get that off, you can put your tool in here. Hopefully. Okay, in the nut you can see what it looks like. There's a washer and the lock washer. With that off, oh yeah, you see all that silver in there. That's nice, some sparkles. Now we can get the clutch off. Now we can get the primary drive off. It should slide right off. And there's a collar here. Just like that. We have a little snap ring here, And then we should be able to take our primary gear off. This thing can be a pain to get off sometimes. And the primary gear. Doesn't look quite as bad as I thought it would in here. Gonna go ahead and remove this stopper arm here. It's a 10 mil. Hopefully it doesn't all come apart. I can show you exactly what it looks like. There's an arm here with the spring. Now I'm going to try to remove this gear shift assembly. I think if I can get it past here, it'll all come out. There we go. I was tapping on this end with the brass hammer just to make it slide better. Now I can take off this shift cam plate. It's another 10, hopefully. Okay. Be very gentle. And these are all dowels that you need to take out. So let me get some pliers here. And very gently take all these out. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this kickstart return spring out. There's another snap ring here. Much easier since it has the little holes. Now to get the spring out, I'm gonna come under here. Hopefully get this out just like this. And slide it all the way off. Next on the list is going to be this oil pump. I already loosened it up with my impact. Again, these are pretty tough to get. I wouldn't even try it without an impact. Just like that. You don't have to loosen these three if you don't want to. It's probably a good idea to do it while you're in here, just in case you need to replace them, but it's not necessary. There's a little gasket here. And then down in here, there's a little collar that you need to get. Let me get a pick or something. There you go. It's easy to forget, and if it falls out, you'll have a hard time finding it. I think that's pretty much everything on this side except the filter here. It actually doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's no huge chunks or anything. I guess we'll see once we split the cases what's in the bottom, but so far I'm pleasantly surprised from what it looked like. Back on the other side here, I'm going to start by getting this plastic cap out. Underneath here is I think it's a 10. Go ahead and take that out. And a washer. Next up, I'm going to go around and loosen all the case bolts one at a time. I don't want to hit these with the impact because I don't want it separating funny. So I'm just going to give them all like one turn. Now that they're all broke loose, I'll go ahead and take my impact and run them out. And I have a little piece of cardboard here so I can keep track of where they all came from. think it's time to split the cases. To split these cases, I'm going to be using a Tusk crankcase splitter. They're pretty easy to use. Just find 3 holes that you want to use. Make sure you thread this down all the way in. And you can run the nuts down. You don't need them to be that snug because it's going to be pulling up. You don't want to damage your case either. As you start tightening this down, crankcase should start splitting apart. Oh wow, it started splitting apart like immediately. And it started splitting over here, which is nice. A lot of times it'll start over here and this side won't come up as cleanly, but the whole thing just started splitting really nice. That usually doesn't happen. And it's already, I think that's it. This probably is the easiest split I've ever done. Could have probably just tapped on it with a hammer. Let me get this stuff off of here and we'll see if we can get it all the way apart. Crank came right out of there. Doesn't look too bad in here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but these bearings look good. I don't see any huge metal chunks. We'll check the other side, but first impressions is this thing will definitely be good for a rebuild. Here we have the crank. It looks like it's in pretty good condition. Both these bearings are spinning freely, and I don't hear anything weird in the sound. I'll clean them up and check them again, but I think they can be reused. Same with the big end here. There's no play. Maybe a tiny bit of side to side here, if you can see that. Totally acceptable. So I think this crank is good, which is one of the most expensive parts of these rebuilds. While I'm working on the crank here, I'm going to try to drive this wrist pin out. I have a little socket here. I have it supported on this 2x4. And I'm just going to tap it real lightly and hope that it starts going. And it is. Alright. You can see it's definitely got some marks on it where it didn't want to come off. But it looks like we got it out of here. And I don't see anything wrong with the small end. This piston probably was in working order when it seized up. But now all the rings are completely shut. It's pretty much junk here. But it doesn't look too bad. Like I said, I don't think this thing had a lean seizure or anything catastrophic to it. I think someone probably just left it either with the spark plug out or somehow it got water into the motor and just froze the cylinder. To finish taking apart this bottom end, the first thing I'm going to do is remove this kickstart lever. Just like that. Make sure you don't lose this washer here. This transmission looks really good. I'm going to take it out to clean it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm going to try to remove it as one single piece here. And I'll show you, I think there's a couple washers. There's definitely some washers. Two washers right here, right off the bat. So there we go. Looks just like that. There's a washer here, which would go on this one, or a little spacer here. Nothing else. And there's a bearing here on this side. So don't worry, I'll show you how to put it all back in when I'm putting it back together, but just for reference, for my own too. This case half does not look that bad either. I've checked all the bearings. They seem okay. I don't see any huge metal chunks, so hopefully with a good clean and rebuild, we'll be able to get this thing running again. The last thing I'm going to do this case half is remove this idler gear here It's connected to this shaft. I'm gonna put my adjustable wrench here, put my rag in here to see if I can hold it and break it loose. Oh wow, this thing was like loose. I didn't even try to loosen it up, but it's coming out. There we go. And just like that. I think this case is pretty much stripped down as far as I'm going to take it. Alright, I think that's going to do it for today's video. I can't really take it any further until I order up some parts. This is probably the nastiest motor that I've ever been in. It actually, the bottom end turned out to be pretty decent. So I just need to clean everything up, inspect everything, get some parts ordered, and we'll have this thing running again in no time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.